Thank you. Welcome and good evening. My name is Cheryl Chambers. I'm here tonight from Caltrans with our project team to talk about the US-101 SR-1 sea level rise project. We are very much in the beginning of the project, so it is an opportunity to talk to the community about what some of your concerns are and what some of your proposed solutions are. As we have our meeting here in person, we also have people who are online. So our process will be to ask people who have questions in the room to go to the mic to my left. And then also, if you're online, please raise your hand. So we'll rotate between online and in the room to get as many people to be able to provide comments as possible. We're asking each person as they present to only take 2 minutes so that we can get as much input as possible. For those in the room tonight, there is, as you checked in, what we call some Title VI reporting requirements. If you could fill that out, it would be greatly appreciated. It gets us a chance to show that we are being more equitable in reaching out to the community. So with that, on this LEAP Day, February 29th, 2024, I will pivot to my project team and let them introduce themselves, and we will go through a short presentation. We also have some questions that had come to us in advance, so we'll answer those and also give an update on some short-term projects that are addressing some of the flood issues in the community at this time. So with that, Trang, Daniel, take it away.
Sure. My name is Trang Hong. I am a senior transportation engineer in the Office of Advanced Planning.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Cuellar. I'm the project manager managing the US-101 State Route 1 sea level rise project. And I'm very happy here to be here and present this project to you. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go through the presentation that we've prepared. Thank you, Trang. So most members of the community, well, everybody in the community has been impacted by the adverse effects of climate change. In this case, with sea level rise and the flooding that is currently being experienced, at times being exacerbated by the storm events and the king tides that are impacting the communities that surround this section of the corridor of US-101 and Marin 1. And so we're looking at we're planning a long-term project. We call it a long lead project to address these issues with sea level rise, and this is our opportunity to come here and engage with the community and ask those important questions as far as how we can best find the best solutions for to address and have a good project for the community and for the uses of the transportation network.
Buenas noches, yo me llamo Jane Dueñas y soy asistente administrativa del equipo de la Oficina de Información Pública y estoy aquí para traducir lo que mi colega Daniel está hablando del proyecto. Pues el proyecto US-101, Carretera 1, aumento del nivel de mar, es un proyecto que va a ayudar a lo que ha estado pasando con las inundaciones en esa área de Manzanita. Esto ha afectado a muchas personas y estamos explorando diferentes planes para ayudar a la comunidad, y esta reunión es para saber cuáles son las opiniones del público y basarnos de eso para saber qué es lo que vamos a hacer acerca de este problema. Y muchas gracias por asistir y espero que nos puedan dar sus opiniones, y les vamos a dar una presentación de las cosas que hemos pensado, que hemos planeado, pero todo está en planificación solamente. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you. Okay, so before we start with the project, I want to go over what our meeting protocol, and please, I would ask our members in the audience here and also in our Zoom meeting to please hold your comments and questions towards the end of the meeting. And also, if there's questions that are burning in your mind, and maybe perhaps for those folks that have the ability or are joining us through Zoom, you can type those questions in the chat box and we'll go and address them accordingly. There will be a 2-minute time limit as far as any verbal comment. And above all, be respectful to everybody and to each other and the communities with the community's concerns. So with that said.
El protocolo de reunión esta noche es, por favor, guarde sus preguntas y comentarios hasta el final de la junta. Durante la presentación puede escribir sus preguntas o comentarios en el chat o levante la mano durante la sesión de preguntas y comentarios para compartir en voz alta. Hay un límite de 2 minutos para preguntas y comentarios en voz alta. Y por favor, muestre respeto a las preguntas y comentarios de otros miembros de su comunidad. Back to you, Daniel.
Really quick, there is no chat. If you have a question, raise your hand and we'll answer them in the order they come in.
Okay, thank you.
Solo quiero corregir una de las cosas que dije. No hay chat. Si tiene comentarios o preguntas, simplemente levante la mano y puede preguntar.
Yes, thank you. And we also have a project inbox where folks can submit their comments or concerns. It's Manzanita project at dot.ca.gov. Thank you.
Sí, también tenemos un correo electrónico donde puede mandar sus preguntas y comentarios. Es manzanita@dot.ca.gov. Do you mind putting it in the chat? Oh, we don't have a chat. Sorry. Okay. Back to you, Daniel.
Okay. Before we start, also, we want to share what our non-discrimination policy statement. And this is for our Title VI, eventually given, as Cheryl covered it earlier, the opportunity and being equitable for all the community members to participate in the engagement process for this project.
Antes de empezar la junta, solamente queremos compartir la declaración de la norma de no discriminación. Eso está bajo el título 6 de la Ley de Derechos Civiles de 1964. Eso solamente indica que no será discriminado por ninguna razón y aparte de participar, ni se le negarán beneficios o ser objeto de discriminación en ningún programa o actividad.
Thank you. So what our agenda is going to cover, we introduced ourselves. We're going to go over the project information, what it is, our public engagement goals, moving forward for this project. The project development process is really important for the public and for us to be transparent of what the project development process is. So everybody's aware of the timelines or the concerns with this project or the challenges, what our adaptation strategies would be as far as the scope, and what the next steps, and then we'll go over the Q&A.
Antes de empezar la junta, esta es la agenda de esta noche. Vamos a empezar con una bienvenida e introducción. Después compartiremos información del proyecto. Después de eso, los objetivos de participación pública, cómo usted puede participar para dar sus opiniones y ser parte de este proceso. Y eso nos lleva a lo siguiente, el proceso del desarrollo del proyecto. Y después exploraremos las estrategias de adopción. Y después de eso, los próximos pasos y al final, preguntas y respuestas.
All right, thank you. So what is our project, right? What is a project? It's this project is is to address sea level rise or the impacts of flooding throughout the corridor and the adjacent communities on US-101, SR-1. And we're currently, as Cheryl mentioned earlier, we're currently in the planning stages of this project. We're looking to complete our project initiation document or our project study report and project development support document in June 2024. And the next phase is still funding is still yet to be identified for the next phase. So, but when we complete the PSR PDS for short, or the project study report, is that will take us into the next phase, which would be our what we call our PNED, or our project approval and environmental document phase, where we look closer at the alternatives being presented, and we start from an environmental perspective, looking to and also getting more engagement from the public as far as what would be the best alternative moving forward for this project. Shown here on the slide where the project's located. What we have delineated in red is what our project limits are, and again, it encompasses the corridor that is adjacent to Richardson Bay and Marin City, and also the connector of Marin 1. So I guess I'll go on to the next. What happened?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were still presenting that slide. Okay. La información del proyecto. ¿Qué es este proyecto? Es el documento de iniciación del aumento de nivel de mar del US-101, carretera estatal 1. Ahorita estamos en la fase de planificación. Se espera que esto va a ser para junio 2024. La siguiente fase depende de la financiación, depende de los fondos que tengamos en el futuro. Y ya dependiendo de eso es cuando va a haber estudios ambientales y podemos continuar a la siguiente fase. ¿Dónde va a ser este proyecto? Esto está delineado en rojo en el mapa que ven en el medio, en la tercera caja. Está por Richardson Bay y por el estanque. ¿Y por qué estamos haciendo esto? Porque las inundaciones han afectado el terreno comercial, residencial e industrial. Y la colaboración con los interesados y el público es de máxima prioridad para nosotros. Back to you, Daniel.
Thanks, Shane. Okay, so given the scope of this project, and it's a very big project, we want to be able to engage with the community, or we want to give the community to engage earlier on with this project. And so we usually, with Caltrans projects, public engagement doesn't happen until the next phase of the project. And sometimes there's changes that would delay sometimes the project. With this strategy in community engagement is mitigating for those impacts in the delays for the project. And so it will be a smoother transition when we have public engagement, when we have public input, as we move towards the next phase and throughout the project development of the project early on in the next phase, in order to come up with the best alternative, in order to come up with the right with a preferred alternative and right size the project accordingly in terms of cost, in terms of cost, and be able to schedule it effectively. So it creates a lot of efficiencies, and that's a reason for this public engagement. One of our public engagement goals is to guide and engage and with the public and develop a good scope for the project. Also share information with the community, and that would help us understand the challenges that the community currently faces with the challenges or the impacts of sea level rise. And this project is community driven. We want to be able to develop product alternatives that is transparent and ongoing. This whole public engagement is not just a couple of meetings with folks, with stakeholders. Is throughout project development. It is input throughout the project life cycle. There's things sometimes change, and so communication is key as we move forward with addressing the challenges as they come up and with a long-term project like this. So creating a process that is meaningful and again throughout the whole project development life cycle.
Las metas de participación pública, lo que queremos es hablar con ustedes temprano en el proceso, porque eso se nos va a hacer más fácil a nosotros para tener mejores alternativas en costo y en calendario. Eso crea eficiencia para nuestro proyecto. Queremos aprender de los miembros de la comunidad. Queremos que usted nos ayude a guiar cómo involucrarnos, qué desarrollar y cómo se ve este proceso. Compartir información con la comunidad. Ayúdenos a entender cómo quieren que nos comuniquemos con ustedes y aprendan sobre el desarrollo del proyecto. Esto está impulsado por la comunidad, el desarrollo de alternativas del proyecto. Queremos que todo sea transparente y continuo. La comunicación es muy importante en este proceso porque queremos saber qué es lo que piensan ustedes. Y queremos crear un proceso de significativo a través de todas las fases, no solamente en planificación, pero a través de todo el proyecto.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, so a lot of folks would ask, what is the project development process that Caltrans has? And the project development process comprises of various phases, 4 phases in particular, where we have the project initiation document. That's where we are right now, which we're trying to accomplish by June of this year. The next phase of the project is the project approval and environmental document phase. Our project initiation document will program the next phase of the project. Once we're able to be in that phase with the PNED phase of the project approval and environmental document phase, we're able to evaluate and analyze what our project alternatives will look like. And then we could start working towards a final project report and a final environmental document to program us to the next phases of the project, which would be the plan specifications and an estimate phase, or the PS&E phase, and then our construction phase. So that's what our project development process looks like at Caltrans. I just want everybody to understand that. The way we build projects, certain transportation agencies deliver projects a little bit differently, but this is what a project development process looks like.
Mucha gente nos pregunta cuál es el proceso de desarrollo de los proyectos, y aquí les tenemos un gráfico para que pueda ver. Donde estamos ahorita es en la primera fase, que es el documento de iniciación. Es cuando empezamos a explorar planes y tenemos más o menos una idea qué es lo que queremos hacer. Ya después de eso es la aprobación del proyecto y un documento ambiental, que es el PAED. Y cuando se hacen esos estudios, todos esos estudios tienen que hacerse antes de que podamos ir a la siguiente fase, a la tercera fase, y es cuando ya podemos tener planes, especificaciones y estimados, que es la PSIE. Y ya cuando pasemos de todo eso, vamos a la fase de construcción. Ya es cuando se puede construir lo que se planeó y lo que se aprobó. Y sí, es muy importante reconocer este proceso, porque eso le va a ayudar a saber qué es lo que estamos haciendo y por qué toma el tiempo que toma. Back to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Jane. So we want to go over what our strategies are with respect to our long-term project at US-101 SR-1 sea level rise project. And our other adaptation strategies are based on the Ocean Protection Council's guidelines for climate resilient infrastructure. And those strategies, adaptation strategies, talk about how, or the 3 strategies, adaptation strategies that they have identified for transportation infrastructure is the accommodate adaptation strategy, which would modify the existing resources, or the protect, which would employ engineering or nature-based structure to defend existing conditions, or the retreat adaptation strategy, which would be to relocate the existing resources.
Y las estrategias de adaptación de los proyectos están basados en el Consejo de Protección de Mares. Y estas son las siguientes. Queremos acomodar, es modificar los recursos existentes. La segunda es emplear estructuras ingenierizadas o basadas en la naturaleza para poder proteger las condiciones existentes. Y la tercera es reubicar los recursos que ya tenemos.
Thank you, Jen. So we do want to go over what some of our strategies look like. And first, the first strategy is the accommodate strategy, which would be to accommodate the resources that we have. And when we talk about accommodating, we're looking to raise the profile of 101 or the elevation of the infrastructure for US Highway 101, and also the other infrastructure with State Route 1 and Marin 1 and Manzanita Park and Ride. But before I go and I continue with the rest of the adaptation strategies, these are not what I'm going to present are not just our standalone solutions, but with the communication and engagement that we want to have with you, we're looking to combine some of these adaptation strategies. These are just ideas to give the community to start us off with, right? So with this accommodate strategy is to elevate the infrastructure of US 101 and State Route 1, along with the Manzanita Park and Ride facility.
De aquí les vamos a mostrar algunas ideas que tenemos para combatir este problema. Estos no son planes finalizados, solo son ideas y queremos comunicarnos con ustedes para saber qué piensan. La primera solución en la que hemos pensado es acomodar lo que ya tenemos. La idea sería de elevar la carretera 1, la US-101 y también el lote de Manzanita. Eso, elevándolo, eso podría ayudar a mitigar las inundaciones.
Thank you, Jane. Our retreat adaptation strategy covers the partial improvement of US 101 with a flyover connection of State Route 1. That also includes the relocation of the park and ride lot of Manzanita to either the connector or the interchange at US 101 and 131, or the relocation of the Manzanita Park and Ride lot to the Marine Gateway Shopping Plaza. And this is, again, our retreat adaptation strategy that we're looking at. And again, this is an idea that we're looking to implement or augment into other alternatives, right? But this is another idea that we want to present to the public.
La segunda idea sería de retirar lo que ya tenemos. Podemos realinear la carretera 1 de debajo de la 101 y por encima de 101. También estamos pensando reubicar el estacionamiento de Manzanita a el shopping, el centro comercial de Marine Gateway. Y esta es solamente otra alternativa, otra idea. Puede ser una combinación de ideas o es uno de los planes en los que hemos pensado.
Yes. Before I continue with the next adaptation strategy, there was a question regarding how high are we looking at on the accommodate alternative. How much are we looking to raise the profile of the infrastructure? And to answer that question, we're looking at between 8 to 14 feet based off the current Ocean Protection Council's sea level rise recommendations. And these numbers will change as more data is collected and modeling is updated.
I appreciate you answering that. And I wanted to, I had understood in 2017, you all were talking about 20 feet. So I'm glad that we're here to really talk about what you're talking about because Dr. Hill was saying when you elevate the freeway like that, that's just more flooding coming into Marin City. But my question really, I also wanted you to please, when you're talking about these models, can you just show us on the map up there? You mentioned things and I'm like, where are you talking about? It's hard for me to follow you.
Now I understand.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Get on my mic. We're creating a website and we're going to post this so that you can see it. And then also if you signed in with your email, we'll send you the presentation. So we will slow down. Maybe Daniel can do a little touch, turn, talk and stand up and point to stuff for those that are in the room. For those that are at home, we're sorry. So hang on a second because we're trying to get through the presentation and we know you have questions. Plus we have some questions that just like how high.
This
that we
has to do with the presentation. So you're saying that for us to follow along with something in our hand presentation, you email that out?
I will email it after. We didn't come with handouts. We didn't come with handouts.
Is there agenda? Nothing? We just
There-
sit here and,
No, the only agenda is we're presenting what we feel the problem is and some possible adaptation solutions. And then we want to hear from the community what you're experiencing, what you think some solutions are, because we're at the very beginning. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're just showing you what we have so far. And then we want to hear from you. This is really more of a listening session, but we're just trying to get through a few things that we had because originally we were just going to come and hear from the community. That was the guidance that we got, but we met with the resilient team and they said, show us what you're thinking about. So tonight we're showing you some of the things we're thinking about. One of the things is accommodate. Another one is retreat, so on and so forth. And I apologize, maybe we were going through them too fast. We can slow down. But that's just what we're thinking. I've already heard a couple of solutions tonight from some of the community. So we want to hear what you think. We have heard some of what the problems are with the pollution and the toxic and the pooling, one way in, one way out. I'm learning more about the community because this is maybe about my 10th time here.
okay, so I
So-
didn't know that you were gonna, I had no idea you were gonna open up the mic for
We are,
public.
we
You said
announced
that
that, we
earlier?
announced that at the beginning.
Oh, I apologize. I
Not
was
a
late.
problem, not a problem. But what I want to
never
say,
mind.
no, that's okay. But what I want to share is when Daniel gets done, which I think he maybe has about 3 or 4 more slides, then we will answer some of the questions that we know are burning, like how high. We'll talk about what some of the interim solutions are. We got another culvert coming through. And then we'll say, hey, come on up and ask questions. So we're trying to get through that and then we'll be able to pivot.
Well, I just want to say, since I'm standing here, that I was at your last meeting here in Marin City, and we basically said to you, because I noticed on the slide, it says Manzanitas 101, and none of that affects Marin City. Thank you very
Well,
much.
let me just say one thing. We did have an impact. You did have an impact because we were calling it the Manzanita Sea Level Project. Now we're calling it the US-101 SR-1 project, state route.
Mhm.
So modification, but let's pivot back. Okay, so we can get through it. No worries, no worries. All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
Daniel.
No, thank you.
All right.
Sí, tuvimos que retroceder un poco a la fase de acomodar las rutas estatales. Uno de los miembros de la comunidad preguntó cuánto se elevaría y les respondimos que si hacemos la elevación de las carreteras sería entre 8 y 14 pies de alto, y esto es de acuerdo al Consejo de Protección de Océanos. Y también se le ha dicho a la audiencia que después de la junta, si usted dejó su correo electrónico, se le va a mandar una copia de esta presentación. Y no hemos dado papeles ni guías en esta junta porque solamente estamos en el principio de la planificación, solo estamos explorando ideas, queremos saber qué es lo que usted piensa. Así que solamente estamos presentando nuestras ideas y queremos saber lo que usted piensa de ello. Back to you, Daniel.
Could you, I hate to just back a couple and just like start again so we really see that.
Yes. No, absolutely. No. And let's start with our adaptation strategies. The first one being the accommodate strategy. Our accommodate adaptation strategy, again, would be to accommodate the resources that we have. In this case, we're looking to elevate the infrastructure of US-101 back from Donahue, including the on and off ramps and including the connector onto State Route 1 along with Manzanita Park and Ride. And so again, we're looking to raise the profile between 8 to 14 feet. Again, it's very preliminary. And we're looking at modeling to identify or really come up with the best, with a profile to address the flooding and the sea level rise that we're currently experiencing here. That's our accommodate strategy here. With,
Una vez, oh, sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
go ahead, Jane.
Oh, ok, sorry. Pues estamos empezando otra vez con las estrategias, con los diferentes planes que tenemos para combatir esto. La primera es acomodar los recursos que ya tenemos y eso sería elevar la estructura. Así que lo estaríamos elevando de 8 a 14 pies de acuerdo al Consejo de Protección de Océanos.
Thank you, Jane.
Ujú.
Our next adaptation strategy is a retreat adaptation strategy, which would involve the partial reconstruction of US-101, as well as a flyover and a flyover to connect to State Route 1, which would include the relocation of the facility at Manzanita Park and Ride to the US-101 and 131 interchange just north, or the Gateway Shopping Plaza is another alternative where we would relocate the Manzanita Park and Ride. We are cognizant of the fact of the challenges or impacts that Donahue would have, and again, this is not just this is one solution to address infrastructure on the transportation network here. We're looking to implement strategies that will mitigate for sea level rise along the corridor that involves up to Donahue.
La segunda estrategia para combatir este problema sería, sería retirar lo que ya tenemos y esto involucraría la reconstrucción parcial del 101 y reconocemos los desafíos de este plan, pero estas solamente son ideas que pueden mitigar las inundaciones que han pasado en esta área. Este plan también involucraría reubicar el Manzanita Park and Ride y también la otra opción sería reubicarlo al centro comercial de Marin Gateway.
Thanks, Jane. On the next slide, again, we cover our retreat adaptation strategy, and this is to show where the relocation of the Manzanita Park and Ride facility will be relocated to. Again, the interchange on US 101 and or 131 interchange, or to the Marin Gateway Shopping Plaza.
Y esto es otra manera de ver la reubicación del Manzanita Park and Ride. Se puede reubicar al intercambio del 101 y 131. Eso lo puede ver a la derecha. O lo pueden poner en el centro comercial de Marin Gateway.
Thanks, Jane.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to our third adaptation strategy, or our protect adaptation strategy. In this case, we're looking to use or elevate the existing bicycle and pedestrian path from South Solito to Mill Valley bicycle path, and we're looking to elevate it between 8 to 10 feet. Again, varying and modeling to be determined. But that would essentially create kind of like a levee to protect the infrastructure in the adjacent communities from the adverse effects of flood. Again, this is our third adaptation strategy that we're looking at, and possibly augmented with other strategies to address the sea level rise.
La tercera estrategia de adaptación sería usar el sendero de bicicletas. También lo pueden elevar el sendero sobre un sistema de un muro. Este no es el único plan, se puede usar este plan en combinación con otros, pero es solamente otra de las ideas que hemos explorado.
So it would be like you said, like a levee seawall. And maybe Trang, if you want to expand on that.
Sure. So we would elevate the bike path and obviously still accommodate the bike path and the pedestrian path on top of that levee. We're proposing it to just be elevated again between 8 to 14 feet and basically use that as almost like a wall levee enhanced bike path to protect the infrastructure.
Sí, se ha clarificado que elevaríamos el sendero de 8 a 14 pies, pero eso no afectaría a las bicicletas. Eso solamente protegería la infraestructura que ya tenemos.
So again, under the Ocean Protection Council guidelines, these are some of the ideas that we're working on for our project initiation document. And again, we wanted to present these ideas because we really want to understand what the if these are some of the alternatives that would work for the community, and how can we enhance these alternatives when we have these conversations. It's really key. And sometimes we understand some folks are not going to like our alternatives, but we're looking to do something to address sea level rise. And this is just the beginning. This is just a conversation to get us going to get us where we want to be. So with that said, again, what are the next steps? Again, to complete. Huh? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. Solamente estamos explicando que estas solamente son ideas que hemos explorado, las estamos presentando porque queremos entender qué es lo que necesita la comunidad, qué es lo que ustedes piensan. Nosotros entendemos que no todas nuestras ideas van a ser recibidas positivamente, pero queremos saber cómo podemos mejorar estas alternativas. Por eso es que estamos presentando esta noche. Ahorita solamente estamos en el documento de iniciación. Este es solamente el comienzo de una conversación con ustedes, pero tenemos curiosidad de saber qué es lo que ustedes opinan acerca de esto.
Thank you, Jen. And before we end the presentation and open it up for Q&A, what are our next steps is to complete our project initiation document. We're looking to complete it again in June of this year. And again, this will be to program the next phase of the project, which will be the project approval and environmental document. Given the size of this project, this would be several years of study and analysis, which would most likely require an environmental impact report, and it would involve analyzing various environmental factors, being hazardous waste, being noise abatement, being cultural resources, biological resources. A lot of studies get done during the environmental process, and throughout this whole process, we engage the community as far as what the best project alternative would be for this project. Again, the document would trigger or will help us guide us in obtaining funding for the next phase. And again, continued public engagement in the environmental phase is going to be key for this project.
El siguiente paso de esta reunión va a ser las preguntas y respuestas, pero antes de eso solamente queremos otra vez hablar de los próximos pasos. Nuestra próxima meta, claro, es completar el documento de iniciación Eso esperamos que en junio del 2024 ya lo podamos completar. Y después de eso, los siguientes pasos serían obtener el financiamiento para continuar este proyecto. Tendrían que analizar factores ambientales y eso puede tomar años a veces con los estudios ambientales, biológicos, hacer reportes de cómo afectaría el ambiente. Pero en todo este proceso vamos a tener participación pública. Queremos involucrarnos con la comunidad en toda fase de este proceso.
Thank you, Jane.
Ujú.
So before, there's a couple of questions. We shared this presentation to various community leaders and transportation agency partners. There were a couple of questions that we want to be able to address before we open it up for Q&A. One being, what is the plan to address the flooding that blocks Marin City access? Only one way in and out of Donahue. Part of looking at sea level rise and addressing for sea level rise at this project is obviously the impacts that are currently being experienced at Donahue. And with this project and with the project alternatives, we'll be looking to raise the profile of the highway and the ramps, but also, and we also are, in order to tie in that infrastructure, the local roads are gonna have to be looked at carefully. How are we gonna be able to accommodate the resources of the transportation network? That includes Donahue, right? So possibly one solution would be to raise the elevation of Donahue to address that. That's just one solution. The next question is, Caltrans has been talking about raising the infrastructure. Will Marin City underpass be widened? So if Donahue Bridge is going to be replaced, it is anticipated that a new bridge would be, will take into account the standard lace and the standard lace and shoulders of the bridge, and we're also going to consider adding pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure under the overcrossing. So yes, we'll be looking at that closely as well, and trying to address that, possibly widen the underpass. The next question is, what is the plan to address the 12 acres of toxic runoff coming into Marin City community? So during the environmental process, we're going to be looking at this more closely. And we'll consider the water quality and the treating of runoff away from Marin City. I'm sorry. Yes, in the meantime, the department will look at the test results that have been obtained from the environmental sampling that has been done. And it will be looking into addressing that with program projects or future standalone projects. The project that we're presenting is a long lead project. And because of the environmental concerns, we understand the impacts and that it has on the community. So we're looking at how in ways of addressing that with either projects that are already programmed or standalone projects. So that's the some of the questions that were brought up and we wanted to address before we open it up for Q&A. Thank you.
Antes de que dejemos que el público haga preguntas y comentarios, solamente queremos responder unas cuantas de las preguntas que han sido más frecuentes. Una de ellas es, ¿cuál es el plan para las inundaciones que han bloqueado el acceso a la ciudad de Marin en la parte de Donahue? Parte de este estudio es analizar los impactos de eso. Algo que queremos hacer es elevar el perfil de la carretera, pero antes de poder hacer un proyecto así, tenemos que analizar las calles locales, tener que saber cómo se van a afectar si hacemos este proyecto. Así que eso puede tomar un poco de tiempo, pero es algo que estamos planeando. Otra pregunta que se ha hecho es, Caltrans ha estado hablando de hacer más ancho el Marin City, el puente que está abajo de Marin City. Sí, el puente Donahue Estamos pensando hacerlo más ancho y quizás podamos poner carreteras de peatones también, pero es algo que hemos pensado y que todavía estamos planeando. Otra pregunta que se ha hecho es, ¿cuál es el plan para combatir los 12 acres de agua tóxica que se está viniendo del estanque hasta Marin City? Y estamos analizando y viendo diferentes maneras de cómo hacer eso. Daniel, would you mind repeating, because I missed that last part of what we're doing for the pond water, the toxic runoff?
Yeah, so the question was asked regarding the 12 acres of runoff that is coming into the community. And the answer was that as part of this long-term project, we'll be looking at the water quality aspects of the project and the impacts that the runoff is having on the communities. In the meantime, we'll be looking at the test results from the environmental sampling that has been done. And we'll look into addressing this issue on future program projects or standalone projects. Again, we understand that we have we're discussing a long lead project. And so this an environmental concern, we'll be looking at this to address this sooner rather than having this being addressed in the long-term project.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, Daniel. Sí, solamente le pregunté a Daniel que clarificara qué es lo que estamos haciendo para el agua tóxica que se está viniendo a la ciudad de Marín. Y él me dijo que parte de este proyecto es estudiar la calidad de agua y los impactos. Todavía solamente estamos estudiando, haciendo análisis ambientales y discutiendo este proyecto, pero queremos combatir eso lo más pronto posible. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Jay. And I think it is important to talk briefly about our short-term projects or the projects that are coming up that are looking to address in the short term some of the impacts that we have with the flooding or mitigating. And one is the culvert project that is with the funding that we received from the federal AJA funding or the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act funding that the department was able to obtain. We're looking to we already started project development for that second culvert that is planned for the pond. So that's currently in our PNED phase, and we're looking to obtain or allocate funding in 2026. That's our target date, with construction in 2027 for that second culvert. We also have a couple of pavement projects that are coming up to begin project development, and those projects are going to start in July of this fiscal year. And those two projects will be capital preventive maintenance projects that are looking to rehabilitate the pavement along with various other items such as some complete streets elements that generally are also improved along with capital preventive maintenance projects. So those are two projects that are currently that are going to be programmed and that are going to be currently they're going to begin development. So thank you.
Sí, Daniel también estaba explicando que tenemos algunos proyectos programados para combatir las inundaciones. Uno de ellos es Culvert Project. Eso lo estamos haciendo con dinero que recibimos del gobierno federal y eso está planeado para poder mejorar el estanque que ahorita no está en excelentes condiciones. Y queremos obtener financiamiento en el 2026 y poder finalizarlo, entrar a la fase de construcción, ojalá el próximo año, el 2027. También tenemos otros proyectos programados en julio del 2024 para rehabilitar el cemento. Y sí, solamente él quería decirle que sí tenemos muchos proyectos que ahorita ya están en proceso. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. I think we're ready for our Q&A session.
All right, so thank you, Daniel and Trang. So I think we have our first question in the room, and we'll take 2 or 3 questions in the room, and then we'll pivot to our online community. So my capable colleague is in the back. Before you start, we'll start our timer. And you ready, Vince? All right, sir, if you'd like to introduce yourself. 2 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Sasha Cole. I'm a houseboat resident. In fact, that is my marina right there in that picture. If you can could you please put like an aerial picture back up? One of the earlier slides. Just running that.
Any particular one?
Yeah, that's great. So we are on the bay side of that yellow line. There's the office buildings with the blue roof. And I'm just curious what will happen with these different plants, like a seawall. I don't know where our access to land would be. The other thing I want to say is that it does flood significantly now. So there are probably about 15 days in the last 3 or 4 months during the king tides where I cannot get in or out of the house for about 4 hours, right? If I forget and I go out, I come back and I can't get access to my house, or if I need to leave. So we're cut off. I suppose there's a safety implication there if someone were to need an ambulance or something, hopefully not. And that's been going on for a long time, at least the 8 years that I've been a resident. A gentleman back here said 63 years Marin City's been flooding, so that he's been alive. So that's right now. I do want to think about sea level rise in long term, but I am concerned, like if you're going to cut us off from all access to roads with a map, I'd like to know that now, because it's
So
going to
let me
make
be
it's
clear.
literally turn our houses into literally stranded assets. Yeah, no, not that farther down, the other direction, right there. Your hand is right on top of it. There's more though to the further. That's not where I live though. There are houseboats there, but that's not where I live. She was where I live. Yeah, so our road comes out right next to Manzanita and that underpass, and it's unusable.
Got it.
For a few hours around the king tide, but if there's a storm surge or if there's rain, then it doesn't even have to be a particularly high tide. And so that's now, and I know with sea level rise, it will be worse. So I'm happy you're doing something, but I just want to know, are we going to be left stranded? Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is Trang Hong, and I'll answer that question. We recognize the issue that we have with that that option right there with the protect. Even we wrote it in our project initiation document that access and with the driveways over, okay, the elevation that we're looking at is going to be an issue. What our office is probably going to have to coordinate with the community and also with the local agencies to see exactly how we can even modify the levee around that area. I mean, right now we're proposing that it's going to be somewhere similar to where the bike path is, but obviously that location or the pathway can change too, so that we can accommodate and also help protect the community. And that's where, we would also like to hear from the communities. How do we try to protect your homes and your businesses when, with all of this like inundation and sea level rise, because right now we are just looking at the levee, but we obviously know that we need to take that levee and move it around too. Move it, possibly, encompassing some of the communities, or, this is where, again, we were talking about the seawalls or something. There'll have to be certain components that we will be looking at and probably combining them together to come up with a solution in the area.
Uno de los miembros de la audiencia expresó agradecimiento que estamos haciendo este proyecto porque dice que las inundaciones lo han afectado mucho, y solamente expresó una inquietud porque él vive por ahí, por donde vamos a hacer el proyecto bajo este plan, y él solamente quería saber si nuestro proyecto lo iba a atrapar en su casa por la forma que vamos a elevar esto, si seguimos ese plan. Pero le estábamos explicando que no, que antes de hacer algo así, hablaríamos con la comunidad, haríamos preguntas y quizás hagamos alguna combinación de diferentes planes, pero no se iba a quedar ahí atrapado.
All right, Ms. Green.
Yes, I'm Terry Green, longtime resident of Marin City. Also sit on the Marin City Community Services District Board, Executive Director of Marin City Climate Resilience, and also sit on the Flood Zone District Board. Have some questions here. Raising the freeway 20 feet. And I wish you all at some point, folks is going to start telling the truth. You're talking about not only blocking views, adding more flooding to the Marin City community. These are equity issues. These are environmental justice issues. And we have been trying for years to get this information. And, you know, it's like folks don't really want to share it. And I understand why. The issue of the park and ride, I cannot believe that you even thought about using our only shopping center, the Gateway Shopping Center, our only shopping center. The folks that park and ride, I'm wondering how many shopping centers do they have in their community? But you all are willing to even entertain that idea. It's just hard for me to even comprehend this. The issue of the 12 acres of toxic runoff coming from Highway 101, it's been, that's been noted. It's been written up in the flood study or stormwater study of 1718. Treat us like you did Carter Madera. You all took that toxic runoff going over the Carter Madera Hill, you diverted it and then sent it out to the bay. We have been talking to you all about this for years. And you're thinking about some issues when it's already been a precedent. Follow that. Treat us the same way. The other issue, this bicycle path. Oh yeah, I've been in several meetings. What is it, about 600,000 bicyclists a year? You want to actually put that on the Marin City side. And oh yes, there's been several conversations about that. And not one time have you come to the Community Services District and talked to us about any of these things.
Green,
Yes.
your 2 minutes is up.
Oh,
All right.
all right.
I just want to hear from others.
Okay, that's fine. I'll come back.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll hear one more from the room and then we'll go to the online if there's any questions.
Do you
My
want me
name is
to
Royce
answer-
McLemore and
Ms. McLemore, we
Yes.
do have some answers to the question.
Okay.
for me,
So I did want to answer some of the questions or concerns that Ms. Green had. So when she was talking about the 20 feet, okay, that is basically based off of the existing elevations that are along Route 1 and 101 right now. It's not at 0. There's various locations where the elevation's at 12. So that's why 8 feet, that's why you get 20 feet. Along the bike path that's under 101, that's like around 6 feet, okay? So that's actually in the floodplain. So when you put 14 feet, then that's where you get 20 feet. So that's why, probably why you hear sometimes the 20 feet, okay? It's not because of the fact that the roadway is at elevation 0, but it varies, it's at a different elevation and we're just using a reference system when we talk about the 20 feet. It was considered 20 feet NAVD, National, North American Vertical Datum, dated 1988. So, yeah. Okay. So the other question was, or the other concern you had was the park and ride. We would not take all of that park and ride. It was just a very small portion. And what we were trying to propose actually was a garage in that location, very small area, and basically build up there. That would also not only help the park and ride location, but also help also that area too with our Manzanita Park and Ride and also the community's park and ride in that, or parking in that location. So we were looking at that. So we weren't looking at taking all of it, just a very small portion of it, of the parking lot, to put in a Yeah. But you know, that is just an option to put it there because the other option that Caltrans had was to move it on 101 and 131, but we thought that was too far away. Okay, that's going across the bay. So that's why we felt like had to be some other options around this area that can also help Marin City. And those are not the only two locations that we're looking at. I mean, I think in our report, we weren't able to study it that well, but there is the area that's even underneath 101 that we can try to build up. There are other locations that are a little bit at higher elevations that we can take a look at too. I think Golden Gate Transit, sometimes when it floods, goes to the other side of, you know, near the Buckeye Roadhouse, you know, that elevation or somewhere around there. There's a lot of other locations that we can look at. So not necessarily just in the shopping plaza, especially if the community doesn't want it there.
Brevemente, Terry Green, residente de la ciudad de Marin, expresó algunas inquietudes que tiene sobre los proyectos y las ideas que hemos compartido hoy. Ella pensó que íbamos a elevar la carretera 20 pies y le explicamos que eso es solamente basado en las elevaciones existentes. En muchas localidades ya está a 12 pies, así que si le subimos de 8 a 14 pies, eso es lo que lo llevaría a 20, pero no está a nivel cero actualmente, ya están elevadas cierto número de pies. También expresó que no le gusta la idea que quitaríamos el único centro comercial que tiene, pero le explicamos que no íbamos a destruir completamente el estacionamiento de Manzanita, solamente parcialmente, y eso ayudaría al estacionamiento y también al centro comercial. Pero no, esa no es la única localidad que estamos viendo. También otra opción, como explicamos anteriormente, es ponerlo en el intercambio del 101 y 131. Y también hay otras opciones que no exploramos esta noche, pero si todo depende lo que opine la comunidad y si no están contentos con eso, podemos ver otras opciones.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah.
Yes, my name is Royce McLemore, longtime Marin City resident. A couple of questions. Under upcoming projects in the area, and you have the first project 1, portable pump station near Drake and Donahue intersection, and you have the current phase is the final design. I was here last night and they were still just discussing it. So when did the final design happen and where do you plan on putting it? And I'm saying, just like I said last night, because I had in conversation with somebody from the Department of Public Works last year, don't put it or think about putting it at Golden Gate Village at all. Golden Gate Village is on the National Historic Register as a historic district. And you don't mention anything because it will go through a Section 106 review. So take it on over to the shopping center, but don't think about putting it there. It'll stop everything for a long period of time. Trust me. And then 2, looking at that retreat and relocate Manzanita Park and ride into Marin City with the one-way in and the one-way out and more traffic, etc. I mean, you wouldn't do this out in Bolinas or Dillon Park. Why would you do it in Marin City? Or amen to that. I mean, why? Why? Because of who we are? But we're standing up now. No, it's not going to be the business as usual. You're doing everything under the sun to try to gentrify the Black people out of Marin City. But enough is enough. Where you're going to bring in cars, park and ride, don't know who's coming in and who's going out, making it an unsafe city.
Ma'am, on the first item that you mentioned from last night, that's not Caltrans project, that's county project. I hear you, what you were saying about not wanting the location,
right?
But that's not our project.
It was last night's.
It was last night and that was a county meeting. So Caltrans is state, that's not our project.
Okay.
I hear you, but
Mhm.
yeah.
I hear you. It's on this. Yeah, that's where I read it.
I'm telling you, last night's meeting, that was not our project. I don't know what paper you have right now. The
Manzanita sea level rise.
Manzanita sea level rise. I hear that you don't want it to be in Marin City. We've heard those comments. But last night about moving something else, because somebody was telling me about the meeting last night.
Mhm.
The meeting last night was not Caltrans meeting.
But whose paper is this?
So. Correct. So
Not everything is the same. We have listened to you and changed some things already.
So that sheet that you're showing is a combination of Caltrans projects and other projects that the local agencies were also proposing too. That was one of the options we were that we were going to talk about some of the near-term projects, but obviously we just focused on the state projects.
All right, so let's see if we have any questions online.
Oh, yes, we do. We have about 9 people raise hands.
Pedro?
So, hi, good afternoon or good evening. Scott Raymond, please mute yourself. You are up next. You have 2 minutes to speak. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah. I'm one of the owners of Club Avexia. We are a health club in one of the 2 big blue office buildings there off of Manzanita and Pohono. And just a couple of things. The impact that it's had on the business has been devastating. We moved in October 21 and probably had maybe 4 or 5 days of closures at the shoreline exit, and probably same for 22. But in 23, I tracked it, and I'm happy to share it with you guys. We had 32 out of 78 days of road closures. And so actually 25 days out of 78, starting with November 24th all the way through the last closure. So 1 out of every 3 days, the road was closed by Caltrans from Shoreline. So that's the impact. I mean, there are other businesses. I think I speak for all the businesses in that complex and all the houseboat residents there as well. It's we're basically stranded there for 3 to 4 hours. And like I said, 1 out of every 3 days for the last 3 months. So I like a lot of the ideas you're proposing, including the levee wall and raising the exits. One of the things I didn't hear was how do we deal with the water that's there? We've got a ponding situation where once the water breaches and starts to flood the highway there, it takes even well after high tide peak, it takes a long time for that water to recede back out into the bay. And so I haven't heard any ideas on how to get that water out of there. Obviously, a pumping station would be super helpful. But then I also am pleading for temporary relief because these projects may take a while before next season's king tides. If we can do any sort of temporary barriers to just at least on the days where it's not like massive floods, because a lot of those days of closures, it wasn't a complete lake. On the king tides, it's obviously a complete lake from the exits from on-ramp to off-ramp. But a lot of times I think just some barriers would go a long way. And then the last thing I need to plead with Caltrans is just is the personnel. I know they're doing the best they can. They close the roads as late as they possibly can. I've seen it. But for whatever reason, they take a really long time to reopen the roads when they're very passable. And we've actually had situations where a Caltrans truck was blocking northbound exit at Shoreline. It was totally passable all the way through Manzanita. And we asked the guy why he wouldn't move the truck. He said he was understaffed. So we had a Shoreline exit closed for probably at least an hour after the tides receded.
Thank you. On the opening and reopening, we'll take that back to our maintenance team. And I think Trang may have some responses to some of your other comments. So thank you for your question.
So in our proposal, we were proposing some pumps too, especially with the protect option with the levees. You will need a couple of pumps in that area to remove the water that would infiltrate in. So one of the things that we have to also take a look at and obviously talk to the communities are also some additional short-term projects in the area that can help out. I know right now that, we are fixing some tide gates or flood gates around that area, maybe raising, the levee a foot or two or so along where the floodgate is, but that's not going to solve the problem. It's just going to minimize some of the flooding, that's going on right now. With some of our pavement jobs, we can probably try to elevate and everything, the roadway a little bit, but obviously these are issues and concerns that we're going to have to come to you guys and talk about and see what other solutions we can come up with, because obviously best of all the issues that are going on here, and probably have a lot of solutions or alternatives that we can look at to help the area. And so Daniel is the project manager in this area, so he would be aware of a lot of the projects that we'd be working on. And again, we would have to be also coordinating this with the local agencies too.
Thank you, Trang. Let's go with Chuck Ballinger. Chuck, you have 2 minutes. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Great. My name's Chuck Ballinger. I've been a licensed building contractor for 40 years, and I've been following this issue since the mid-90s when the seismic work was done on the bridge. And I must say, I've been to Alaska, I've been to Patagonia, I've seen icebergs melt, everything like that. But that is not the problem. And I really want to emphasize that. And Caltrans knows this. Sea level is not the problem at Manzanita. It's the fact, and Caltrans knows this, that the road has settled 1.5 feet. And anybody can look at those footings that were put in 1995, see the original grade, and see the fact that now you can actually put your arm under those footings, because that road was built on marshland. And so the immediate problem wouldn't exist if that road was elevated 1.5 feet. You have the room under the bridge. The bridge is solid. It'll never be raised. I'm sorry, but we'll never budget that. It's a very solid bridge. The footings go all the way down to bedrock. But the fact of the matter is that land has settled, just like it has up in 37 and elsewhere. So I think the immediate solution, particularly for the people on the bay side, is to do some road raising. I was up in Petaluma today. If you go up there, you'll see the highways being raised 6 feet. It's not that big a deal to raise these roads. And I just wish Caltrans would be more transparent about the fact that the problem with the parking lot and the road there is one of road settlement and land settlement. That's what happens when you build on marsh. So I'm sorry, I believe in global warming, but this is not a sea level issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more question, Pedro, then I go back to the room.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go with Warren Wells. Mr. Wells, please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Warren Wells. I work for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. Addressing flooding in this area is crucially important, particularly as access to and from Marin City is frequently affected by rising tides, as well as the houseboats we heard about earlier. I do want to highlight the importance of the Mill Valley Sausalito path there, which parallels this segment. Because there are no local streets between Marin City and Sausalito and the rest of the county, the path is the only means of travel for those outside of a vehicle. Due to recent flooding, which you heard about, which will only worsen with continued sea level rise, people traveling by bike have had to either turn back or illegally and dangerously ride on the US-101 shoulder to get through this area. The path sees thousands of users a day, and it's the most important piece of active transportation infrastructure in the county because of the lack of a parallel route and also the most threatened by climate change. While the protect alternative would see the path raised on this planned levee, the 2 other alternatives make no mention of it. And we can't simply elevate the freeway while leaving the path to drown. We call on Caltrans to commit to protecting the pathway as well as this part of the project. We need a holistic solution to this corridor rather than fixing it for drivers and leaving people who walk or bike with no hope for a future solution. Addressing the path at the same time as the highway will be cheaper in the long run, And the situation is already untenable for pathway users during storm surges and king tides. We can't simply push it off to a future date. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Back to you, Cheryl. Thank you.
So I can answer regarding the bike paths. So the accommodate when we elevate 101 also does have a bike path on it too being proposed. So we'll just start at the off ramp with Donahue, go on to a portion of 101 and then ramps off again. And then connects with State Route 1. So the bike path is being considered in all the alternatives. And I wanted to get back to the previous comment about the wetland and the pavement sinking. Yes, this area is on 50 feet of mud. Okay, every time when we pave, okay, the roadway will sink again and again. So if we keep paving, it will sink again. Basically, we got to go down to bedrock or on piles if you want it to stay up.
Thank you, Trang. Back to the room. Next question.
Thank you. I live next door in Tam Valley. And so I've seen also solutions there people are working on. And so I would like to ask, is there some sort of a combined? It would be nice to have even, I did work with Miss Terry and we had youth who have looked at this problem and they've actually done some design work that can address some of these issues. I would love to see a charrette, kind of engagement charrette, where you bring intentionally the community together to help think about this and just think about all the possibilities, because there are many. I see the lagoon, the tidally active, it's called the pond, but it's not fresh water, it's salt water. And I see that as a tidally active, like I see it as a remnant shoreline of Richardson Bay. And I think there needs to be a Richardson Bay coalition of people, everyone who has, because there's a lot of different constituents of which we're on, like very few actually are here in the room. There's many more and who need to be in like in the same room together. So Tam Valley's in the same room. So we because I know there's there's thoughts about Coyote Creek and how that might get restored to some degree and back up and get daylit back over by the mall over there, where the Good Earth Shopping Center is. And there's a potential elimination of the pathway, the bike pedestrian pathway there through the marshland in Mill Valley that's not being shown here. So, there was this Resilient by Design challenge that was held. It was an international competition. There were designs that were generated. It would be good to get all of these things in the room and look at the possibilities. I think I just want to say I'd love to see green in like truly green, forward thinking, like 2075 or right 2100. Awesome. Yes, because it seems like there's also potential with restoring wetlands. If you do lift up the roadway and say even that parking lot, part of the mall parking lot could be restored wetlands. People could benefit from that
That was all wonderful ideas. So a couple of things, we're getting close to our time. So
thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you. No, I'm responding to you. So thank you. Let me lift up the email, manzanitaproject@dot.ca.gov for the good questions that you have that we will not be able to hear tonight. Please email us for the good ideas that you have. Please email us. I've heard a lot of good ideas tonight, and I think we can continue to work on what we have before us. Also, what I'd like to lift up is our next meeting is going to be in Tam Valley on March 28th. We recognize that the project limits are within Marin City, but this is a regional community issue impacting your neighbors here from Marin City to Sausalito to Mill Valley. So we will be meeting there and continuing this conversation on March 28th. Let me pivot to you.
Great. Thank you.
evening.
Hi, everybody. Janelle Kelman, former mayor of Sausalito City Council, sit on Marin County Sea Level Rise Bay Wave. Hello, Ms. Terry. serve on BCDC, Regional Elected Task Force, run a nonprofit focused on sea level rise. Please, I urge you to really listen to those last three comments. I think collectively they really nailed it. Whatever you put up there is going to influence and impact everybody around you. Putting up a levee is going to isolate Sasha and his peers. It's going to isolate Sausalito. It's going to create flooding all around you. What I'm not seeing here, and what I strongly urge, is a green-gray infrastructure plan. You're going to need to pull out all the stops. You're not going to be able to just rely on one solution here. You're going to need to restore marshland. You're going to need to daylight creeks. You're going to need to raise that roadway, right? You're going to need to make sure that you don't create a seawall and flooding another portion. This is a difficult problem, and I appreciate the collaborative nature of this conversation because it is on Bay Mud, right? We've lost all but 10% of our marshlands in the state of California. And so this area just wants to flood naturally. So it doesn't really have an option. The gentleman who mentioned subsidence, it's quite obvious when you look at the pylons underneath the freeway. It's quite concerning. So I think you're going to have a real engineering task on your hands with elevation. I also want to make sure this conversation doesn't ignore the fact that Marin City is shaped like a bathtub and it does collect that water, right? And so anything that we do to try to push water one way to the other is going to create more of a flooding effect. Please bring SFEI into the conversation. Done a lot of work around the science of operational landscape units. Please bring WRT into the conversation. They designed the Bothene Marsh 3 alternatives that are working for us in Sausalito in our vulnerability assessment. We're highly aware that whatever we do on a regional basis will impact everybody else. And so I hope the next conversation, I'm glad to hear it's going to be in Tam Junction, talking fast because I know I got 2 minutes. But I'm delighted to hear that because I think we all want to work on this on a regional basis. You're going about it the right way. I appreciate it. But let's make sure that we're not creating unintended consequences elsewhere. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me take
Deputy Chambers, if I can really quickly.
Yes.
Yes, so I still have 12 people with their hands raised. So right now we have a full screen of the email address. It's on the lower half of your screen. On the left-hand side, you see question and contact information. Contact, again, it's Manzanita Project, one word, Manzanita Project @dot.ca.gov. So please write down that email, share your information, share your ideas, share your concerns with us. And that way we can definitely track it. Thank you. Back to you.
Antes de continuar, permítanme traducir lo que acaban de decir. No vamos a tener tiempo para responder todas las preguntas y comentarios esta noche, pero como pueden ver, ese es el correo electrónico donde puede mandar sus preguntas. Es manzanitaproject@dot.ca.gov y el contacto es Daniel Cuellar. Y por favor, mande sus preguntas y la próxima junta que vamos a tener va a ser el 5 de marzo en el Centro Comunitario de Tam Valley. Pero ya vamos a publicar más información sobre eso. Gracias.
Let me correct that. It's March 28th.
Oh, 28, I'm sorry. Discúlpenme, es el 28 de marzo. La próxima reunión.
Thank you, Jane. All right, sir.
Yes, my name is Donald Smith, and as people know, I've been around here for about 76 years. And I do know that the freeway in that section has sunk because around 1959 or 60, they did rise it again, and that made flooding more flooding when they did that. But from the base of the bridge, Richardson Bay Bridge, into the base of Waldo Grade, if you rise that area, then you're going to put a levee on the bicycle path. The intrude of all the excess water that comes off the hills in Marin City is going to flood Marin City. And you're talking about rising Donahue up, then the water that normally would come out and go around the corner is going to back up Drake and flood out the 100 and the 200 block areas. I know, but adding and doing is 2 different things, right? Okay, my time, I got 2 minutes. Okay, and the other thing I heard tonight was taking the park and ride. I know you're thinking about this, and put it in Marin City. Why would you take the convenience of northern commuters who trying to get to San Francisco, Marin, the bus, whatever it is, and park in Marin City. You heard someone said the extra traffic you will have. You will have the traffic. And then you want to take Golden Gate's parking lot and use it for the convenience of someone who don't want to drive across the Golden Gate Bridge. I think that's a bad idea. You need to take that one. Don't take it back to the drawing board. In the military, they talked about, if anyone's in the military, you had file cabinet 13. And when you looked at the cabinet, there was only 12 cabinet drawers. And then there was a trash can next to it. That's where it went. Okay? So tell the truth and shame the devil. I'm sorry. That's the way I see it.
No,
Okay?
thank you.
And, you know, levee, this, that, the water is still coming down from the hillsides.
All right.
Okay?
Thank
I
you,
know.
sir. Thank you, sir,
Thanks
for
the
ending
two-minute
with a
bell.
little
I wonder why
levity
you were doing all that.
with file
Figured it out.
13.
The bellman.
All right, everyone, we are at 7:30. And
I'll let everybody go. Being a gentleman, let everybody go. So
I tell you what they do on TV. We're going to end it. And if you are on the online, we're going to end it. And if we have some conversations on the side over here, you can come up and talk to us. But our meeting is officially over at 7:30.
Cheryl, 20 seconds.
All right.
Yeah. I've been waiting 30 years for this, Cheryl. 30 years.
And that's one of the things, every time you come down, they have a 2-hour range, and you guys take up an hour of it. And then you.
But you know what? That was one thing I was going to say, that one of the good things about coming out tonight and presenting is as we continue to come out, the conversation continues and we can start just talking. At the beginning, we got to give you something and then we can build on it from there.
I'll be quick.
So I can't make you happy, but we'll be back.
I'll be quick.
That's all I can promise you.
I'll be quick. I'll be
Yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
Two things. One is regarding the flood study of 2017. I have it, I've read it, and I've seen that the report of the toxic runoff in the community. My question to you, sir, is the project manager, if you have seen the results I imagine are ugly. Do you not believe the result that it's already been tested? Do you not believe those results? Why do you have to do it again? So hold on, I have 2 questions. So again, for 30 years or more, this has been a toxic runoff in our community. The flood study says that. Why do you need more results? Is my question. That's one question. The second statement, question I have is, I was in Sausalito in 2016, and I saw a flyer in Drivers Market. And it said, meet for Kate Sears, the old supervisor before Molten Peters, had a meeting. In that meeting in 2016, she told the Sausalito community where she resided, where she lives, that Caltrans was thinking about raising the freeway. Here in Marin City, we never got that message. No one's ever told us. This is the first time we're hearing this. 10 years before us, they got the message. My question to you is, you cannot rely on the county to give us information. It's an ugly history. The county does not give us important information. They ignore us. Will you and your team make it a point to communicate to Marin City? Is the second question.
Yes, absolutely. I'll answer both of your questions. The study of sea level rise is evolving, and the climate adaptation strategies and climate resiliency and the impacts of sea level rise. It's an evolving study. We're currently working and maybe trying to elaborate on this, a corridor adaptation study that will look at the overall impacts with not just with sea level rise, but throughout the corridor and the impacts to the communities. Going back to your question, you saw these figures you said in 2017. These figures are probably obsolete now because again, of the evolving nature of flooding. And I understand the concerns, and you probably saw this. And to be honest with you, I didn't see them. I have not seen that study. But I share your concerns in that. What we currently have and what we're currently working with is the most up-to-date available information regarding sea level rise and the impacts of it. That's my answer. I don't know, Trang, if you want to add to that.
Did he answer your question? The first
Yeah,
one?
I can go on the second regarding your yeah.
Well, so I know a lot of people are very concerned about I guess, the testing that you were talking about in 2017, elevated lead, was that on what they found in the water? Yeah, probably something like that. A number of things. So I think through this process with our project, the next phase that we go in through is the environmental phase. And that's when we start taking a look at the water quality, the runoff, and one of the things that we are also going to try to look at is how can we take that runoff and treat it, okay, before it goes into the bay. So that's all part of the process, also in addition to looking at, the biology, the wetlands in that area too. So we will look at the water quality of the pavement runoff.
All right.
On your second question, this project, and we work in conjunction and collaborate and coordinate with our partner transportation agencies. And as far as this project and Caltrans-led projects, we try and engage with communities directly and in collaboration and partnership with our transportation agency partners. And with this project, absolutely, that's what we're trying to do. Come and go through specifically with this project and the impacts that it's going to have this type of level of engagement with the communities and adjacent communities are going to be affected. I hope that answers your question. This is going to be a continuous process, continuous engagement, and I want us to be transparent.
I asked you, will you engage with this community also?
Marin City, that's where we are tonight. That's where we are tonight. We're going to come back. I've made a commitment to talk to you and Ms. Green about engagement because I don't know how Marin City gets its information. So to the extent that we're here, the project limits are here, I'm learning more about the topography and some of the challenges. We'll be back because I know you have solutions, but it's also regional. So we're going to go other places. But at the end of the day, it's at the end of this meeting. And so we will conclude the online. We'll be here to take a few more questions. I know it's raining outside and I got to get back across the bridge and work tomorrow, even though it's Friday. So thank you and have an official good night. And we'll talk to you as we pack up and get out of here because we still got to do some stuff. So thank you.